What's up everybody? So today we're just going to be doing a quick little tutorial on how to take long exposure photos and specifically night exposures with a DJI drone. So the process is extremely simple. Basically, it needs to be nighttime and you need to have a drone. Those are pretty much the only two requirements. So without further ado, I'm going to set up the drone, get it all connected, get it in the air, and then talk through the settings. So let's jump over to my camera bag and get all that set up. Alright, so from here, I'm just gonna start screen recording on my phone and kind of talk you through all of the steps. Alright, so basically the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're just gonna wanna find a good composition. So for example, I really like this building and just kind of the way that the road is next to it. So I'm gonna just kind of send my drone that way and just kind of get a shot set up. So I like the idea of the building kind of being framed by the intersection, by the two roads intersecting here. So I just kind of like that. So basically what I'm gonna do, I haven't really done anything with this drone, so it's kind of just like fresh out of the box. So here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to where it says photo versus video. We're gonna make sure that photo is selected and we're gonna switch that to single shot. Then we're gonna tap out of there. I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna change my format to RAW, because we want a raw image. We want an image that is going to have the most metadata and is going to be the easiest to edit, you know, after we get back home. So I'm going to change that, and then all I'm going to do is, you see how it says auto in the bottom right corner? I'm going to tap that. That's going to switch us over to Pro mode, and that gives us full control of our settings. From here, it looks like it's got all of the settings kind of still on auto mode. So again, you're just gonna tap auto, and that's gonna allow you to manually change these settings. I'm gonna go from bottom up, just because I think that's easier to work with here. So my aperture is 2.8, I like that, I'm gonna leave that there. My ISO is set to 800, I'm gonna drastically drop that down to about 100. We might do 200 depending on how it looks when I change the shutter speed. And so next is the shutter speed, and we're going to just scroll through this, and I'm gonna change it all the way to 8 seconds. And from here, we're actually gonna do a little thing on the controller. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna swap it over to, you see it says Cine mode. So we're gonna swap it to that, and it's basically gonna hold the drone in place a lot better than if it were in normal or sport mode. So now that our drone is very stable and all of our settings are correct, we're just gonna go ahead and click the shutter button. So again, you can do that with just this button, or you can tap it on your phone screen. I prefer to just tap the button back here. It makes life a lot simpler. All right, so now that the shot's taken, generally my workflow when I'm doing this is I will go back and look at the image before I move on, or before, you know, I start changing shots or going somewhere else. So, and to me this looks a little bit too bright as of right now. So you can see we have some pretty nice like light trails from the cars, but it is still looking pretty bright. So I'm gonna back out of here and I'm gonna change my settings up a little bit. So now, since we want it to be darker, we're gonna change the aperture to be higher. And so because I can't change the ISO any lower, and I don't really want to change the shutter speed any lower, because I want that 8-second exposure, because I want to capture those light trails, I'm going to up my aperture, and I'm going to put it at like 4.5, and we're going to see how that works. Again, just clicking that button back here, making it super simple. So as you can see, it is a little bit darker, but it's not that much darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually jump to 7.1, and you can actually see it'll show you kind of the exposure levels that you're at. So like the further I go up, the closer I get to 0 down at the bottom here. And so I want to be pretty close to 0, because that's basically a flat exposure. So I'm going to do, looks like f-stop 10, and we'll give that a try. Again, this is just my workflow, but I like to check the photos every single time. And honestly, that one's like pretty decent, but I didn't get enough light trails in it, so I'm just gonna kind of keep going until I can get some more cars in the frame and get those light trails that I want. And then kind of just move location. So from there, you know, we can find a new spot to kind of photograph if there's something cool, something sticks out. For example, I like this cluster of buildings. I think it looks pretty cool. So I'm just gonna grab kind of one like right here. You can actually see me in the bottom corner over there. I changed my aperture when I was flying because I want to be able to see as good as possible. And when you change your aperture, it's gonna make it a little bit more brighter. And it just gives you a lot better visibility when you are flying at night. But don't forget, when you do go back to your next location, to return your settings to about where you liked them on the last shot. So for me, that was at 9. And again, I changed to normal mode when I was flying, and the only reason I did that is because Cine mode is super slow. So just don't forget to change that back before you move on to your next shot. So once all my stuff is good, again, I'm just gonna push this top button up here, and that's gonna take the next photograph for me. All right, I'm gonna move on to a different location. Maybe try and get straight down on this intersection. I think that looks pretty cool. Again, flipping into Cine, and then changing my aperture up. And you should be able to tell when you take a photo, it'll restart and like reset, and you should see if your drone moved at all. But if it stays in the exact same place, that means it's good, and it means your photo should be sharp. But always be checking your photos, because sometimes they do get a little bit out of focus. Long exposure drone photography is not something that's super typical, especially at nighttime. Obviously you could get ND filters and make it a longer exposure, but unfortunately you cannot go longer than 8 seconds, which is pretty unfortunate. Basically you could kind of do the same technique and do hyperlapse, which honestly would be pretty cool, and I think that's what my next video will be about. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna start getting the drone to head back, and if you have any more questions, or if there's something that I didn't cover that you want me to cover, please just leave that in the comments down below, and I will definitely be responding to that. So yeah, anyways, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.